Lisa.
Hi, everyone. My name's Adam McNeill with the McNeill Financial Group. I am excited to speak to you today about financial wellness. To give you an outline of what I'll be talking about today, I'm going to start with a discussion about what money may mean to you, what a money story is, move on to a discussion about the different relationships people have with money, how to be mindful regarding our savings and spending. I'll be sure to spend a few or share a few stories about where I've succeeded and failed, and then I want to leave you with a few action items you can work on if you like. Let's start at the beginning. How do we learn about money? There's a formal as well as an informal way we learn. The formal part comes from what we learned in school and isn't very robust. This starts in elementary school with currency and how to divide a dollar bill into nickels, dimes, and quarters. Maybe we take a home ec class in middle school, which teaches us how to balance a checkbook. And if we're lucky, there's a few chapters in our high school economics class about what a savings account is, what a certificate of deposit is, things like that. But again, it's not very robust. So as far as our formal education around money, that's largely it. Most of our formative years in our relationship with money comes from our parents and mirrors their relationship with money. This learning is generally observational. What I'm getting at is that we have experiences and emotions regarding our savings and spending and investing habits that starts early in life, and a lot of it's inherited. What most people don't realize is that we have a long, storied life regarding our relationship with money. And I think it's really important to think about that. Also, I can, think of no better time to analyze our consumer or think about our consumer behavior and figure out if that consumer behavior, the places we spend, and save money, what we purchase, makes us happy. Now, what I'd like to describe is that there's a spectrum and a spectrum of where we lie in this behavior. One end of the spectrum is the frugal side. There's a lot of discussion about minimalism that can fall on this side as well. And I'd say the other end of the spectrum is kind of the spendthrift side or the consumerist side. Identifying what part of the spectrum we fall on is important because it allows us to be more truthful and honest with ourselves in our spending and our savings habits. For example, if we have a savings goal and that goal is to save 20% of our income, but at the end of every month, we've spent most of our income and not on the things that were part of our plan or that we had identified were important to us. And in which case we may not be living up to the person we most want to be. Identifying the pain or the pleasure in savings and spending and even investing is what I would call a foundational exercise, and helps us live the life that we identify with. Put simply, the price of anything is the amount of life you're willing to exchange for it. And I'll say that again. The price of anything is the amount of life you're willing to exchange for it. When we're talking about money and currency, we don't buy things with money. We buy things, with the time we put into that. For example, we buy those things with hours, from our lives. However you earned your money, whether it's 12 hours under the sun or in a factory or in an office building, we're compensated for our time in the form of currency, and we take that currency and trade it for things and experiences. I think this is a time when we can feel depleted when we're thoughtless, and especially in with what's going on today, as we are afraid of spending, or what can be somewhat described as a miserly or frugal or conservative end of this spectrum, or when we give too much of it away in the form of overconsumption or being wasteful or profligate. I think being mindful of how we spend our money helps understand who we are and our relationship with it. Now, I know folks who are economical or conservative in their spending habits, and it's because they feel pain every time money leaves their hands. And I also know people who are economical and conservative with their money because they feel pleasure when they don't spend money and they save it, and they know that they don't need, a million things that they could care less about filling up their house. So, why is paying attention to this important? I think it helps us reach those financial goals that are important to us in a more effective way. If you know more about who you are, your overall happiness and pain and what drives you, your relationship with money, when you set a goal of saving a portion of your income or to retire at a certain age, you know yourself, you know the areas where you can get tripped up, or on the opposite side of that, your habits which may help you to do those things that when you're sitting down and you're being mindful, they're important to you. Now, I also want to caution you, especially in times like this, in this conversation regarding this relationship between our time and our money, and it can cause people to become overly cautious or overly parsimonious and feel a lot of pain when they spend money or when we spend money. But the intention for this exercise and why I would like for you to go through it, when you're spending money, when you're going through a budget, when you're looking at your paycheck or your income or your assets, is to identify, what in life makes you happy, and that it's okay to spend money, and that this exercise is just to help you make sure you're doing it in an intentional way. And look, a lot of us have heard versions of this story before. The story of the Buddha was one of starting in extreme wealth, a life lived in pampered luxury where he wanted for nothing. He went on to reject that life for one of extreme self-denial and asceticism for years, and ultimately abandoned that life as well for what became the middle path, or the one between extremes, in between the extremes of indulgence and extreme frugality. Now, I'm certainly never or not one to judge where you land on that path between these two extremes. But why I've walked you through this exercise is to help you identify where you may be on that path. And I think it's a really important exercise. So I know that we're experiencing uncertain times. There's more employment and health risk out there than we're generally used to. So I also know there are some actionable things that I can share with you that can help you to alleviate, or help you kind of get through, what's going on. Some actionable steps that may help improve your financial situation. I think information about ourselves is powerful. So where I recommend starting is by gathering all the financial information you have about yourself you can find. So here's where to start. Take a look at your net worth, meaning adding up what savings, real estate, and investments you may have. Subtract from that what you owe, and the result gives you a clear picture of the resources you have available. The next step is to review and update your budget, meaning take a look at where you spend and save on a monthly and yearly basis. There are spreadsheets out there available from financial institutions on the web. If you're a spreadsheet type of person, there are notebooks you can purchase for this purpose. If you like to have something physical in front of you, there's even some great software options that are available to you. Quicken, which is a paid service, mint.com, which isn't paid, but I'm pretty sure they gather and sell your information. So there's not many things that are free in this world. I also knew you need a budget.com is a good one too, in the fact that it balances your budget along with some goals, and helps you kind of align those things together. This can be immensely helpful in tracking information month over month, year over year. Now, I don't know many people that, enjoy spending and maintaining a budget, but in the same way that your doctor, she'll tell you you should exercise 5 days a week, and many folks find that hard to do. I'm asking you to keep and maintain a budget and review it on at least a monthly basis. I know it's not easy. I know that there's a learning curve for some people out there that have never done it, but I also think now is a great time to start if you've never done it before. Knowing what you spend on rent and mortgage and utilities and insurance and dining and entertainment can go a long way to giving peace of mind and understanding of where you are right now today. I think it also prevents waste. I'm a big data driven person, so I put all of my spending on a credit card, paid off at the end of every month, with the exception of local businesses that I pay cash with. I do this because it allows me to access my spending data anytime of the day or night, and check in where I am with my spending habits. I can then use that data to track my habits month over month. Most credit cards will give you a yearly review about where you spent your money the year before, and you can save those and you can look back 5 or 6 or 7 years and see, as you're identifying or becoming more mindful about where you want to spend and save money, you can see where you used to spend money and where you're spending money now. And where I see a lot of waste is the automatic billing and automatic bill pay, and automatic charges to your credit card. In the beginning of March, I called up Amazon just to review a lot of expenses, because we have automatically some household items coming in every single month. And then throughout the month, I'll watch a movie or order something that I need. And when I look at my statement, there's a lot of charges. Even if I had put in one order, I'll see for that one order maybe 5 separate charges. What I'm trying to get at is that it's really difficult to track. So I called them up and I asked them what some of these expenses were, and I got into some reoccurring expenses that they had seen. And it turns out I had been paying for 2 streaming services, which I had never remembered signing up for and I'd never even watched. HBO being, one, I think Hulu being the other. And they were able to refund that money and stop charging me. And I guess the reason why I'm sharing this with all of you is that even people who are good at this, make mistakes. What's important is that we're checking in on these things to see when they happen, and we can remedy that situation. As you review your budget, it's a great time to look at these expenses and moving on. Even look at what luxuries you want to keep. What do you use? What don't you use? What do you want to cut out? And look, if there's something you cut out because you want to cut back on your spending, and you find out a few weeks to a few months down the line you can't deal without it, you can always add it back. Once you have an understanding of how much you spend on a monthly basis, you can now move to the planning side of your personal finances. So, for example, have 6 months. There's a great time to really focus on this. 6 months of living expenses, or a monthly living expenses. Now that you know what you spend on a monthly basis, have that in a savings or checking account. Just take what you spend on a monthly basis, multiply that by 6, and put that away in an FDIC insured account at the bank that you work with. It's there for emergencies. It's there for opportunities. I can tell you now is certainly a good time to cut back on expenses. If not, just really analyze your expenses, come at it from a want and a need perspective, and, identify if you, really need or even want those things anymore. I know a lot of us who are working hard, and instead of working on making ends meet, maybe, one option is to have fewer ends. I think it's a good question to ask ourselves. Now is also a really important time to review or create your estate planning documents if you don't have any. The big three I'm going to cover today are our will, our healthcare proxy, and our power of attorney. I'll start with a healthcare proxy. It's if you don't know what it is, it's a document which is used to appoint someone you trust, so like a family member or a really close friend, to make healthcare decisions for you if you lose the ability to make those decisions yourself. By appointing this person your healthcare agent, you can make sure that whatever your healthcare providers are doing and doing for you, if you're unable to express those wishes, this person can use that document and help to follow those wishes. Hospitals and doctors and other healthcare providers must follow those agents' decisions as if they're your own. There's a lot of options in this document, so you may give that person you select as your healthcare agent as little or as much authority as you want. You may allow them to make all healthcare decisions or only certain ones. And one thing I see people forget on this document is to identify what wishes you would want as far as organ and tissue donation. I rarely see that on there. I think there are many places you can do that. That's one good spot, just to reiterate it. A power of attorney is a document that allows you to appoint a person or even an organization to manage your property, your financial affairs, if you're unable to, whether that's because of a medical issue or, let's say you're even out of town. However, all power of attorneys, I want to caution you, this is a really important document. All powers of attorneys are not created equal. Just like with a will, your power of attorney should be drafted by an experienced and knowledgeable attorney with special attention given to any charitable gifting options or fiduciary responsibilities. Fiduciary meaning, that attorney in fact has to act in your best interests. Lastly, I'll end with this with respect to your investments and savings accounts. Now is not necessarily a time to make large changes. If you had a solid investment and strategy going into this, my advice is to stick with it. If you don't, now would be a great time to speak with an experienced and knowledgeable professional to help you make sure you're not making any, big mistakes. So I assume that Koisha is going to put some of my information up there. If anyone wants to get a hold of me, feel free to do that. But what I'd like to leave you with is the more you know, the less you fear. Figuring this all out is a lifelong project. So be kind to yourself. We will see this through, and thanks for listening. I really hope this was helpful for you, and be well.